If you have to use one of the running backs, who's one of the return guys now, and they have more of a prominent role, do you bring somebody else in as a returner?
I think my job is to prepare anybody that's on a roster, whether they be on the practice squad or active roster, to be ready to show up on Sunday. I'm still going to train the guys that have been back there, and we're still going to train a couple guys that are getting opportunities like Amir Smith-Marset. Kay Jackson who also came on a roster. And then Egray and Tracy will continue to work at it.
What's your concern is ball security on kickoff returns?
Yeah, no, I've stood up here before and I say the number one thing that is a premium to us is ball security, is taking care of the football, owning the football, and that's something that our players understand too. We got to make sure that we're putting them in situations where they're in traffic, where guys are going to be deliberate to punch the ball out, and them understanding that the ball has to be high and tight. All the same fundamentals that happen on offense too. But that is not something that's short-sighted to anybody in our building. We got to make sure we're taking care of that football like it's a bag of money. Our players understand that, and they wholeheartedly want to make sure that they do that.
You have to be happy with Greg last week. Was there something you saw from the week before when he had that miss, that kind of an adjustment, or was just...
Yeah, so I don't think one kick necessarily defines a kicker, especially a veteran kicker like Greg Joseph. He did miss that one in Cleveland, but his ability to self-correct and bounce back is huge. And that's why he's been able to kick in this league so long. So I was super fired up for him to go 5 for 5. And I know he's confident in himself. I think the big thing is whenever you acquire somebody else from the roster, especially from the specialist position, you're trying to gain comfort with a long snapper and punter holding and all that, and understanding that is a little bit of a different system. So they want to make sure that they're all working together. And I think, Greg obviously trusts Jamie, Greg trusts Casey, and then ultimately they have trust in them, and they've just been working at it.
What's it like for you to gain that trust with a guy who you obviously didn't coach all offseason, coach before? Like, how do you determine his range or where you can trust him from? How do you go about doing that?
Yeah, the first week it's there's a lot of things that you're reliant upon his experience in the league and kind of seeing the certain situations, what stadiums he's been at, where has he hit his long balls, what directions. So those are things that I pay attention to early. As I start to get more and more around him, I can gauge a little bit more of how he is in this atmosphere. And then, obviously in our stadium, seeing him pregame, that's giving me more and more info on, kind of where he is.
So after warm-ups, you talk to him and write something down. Literally getting his range right then, what you feel comfortable with? Yeah,
there's some game plan stuff that we talk about in terms of direction and range and all those things, and just a lot of times it's not necessarily something he said. I'm an avid note taker, and he might say something that resonates that might not be something that we're talking about, but I just might jot it down to make certain that I bring attention to it, maybe with another player.
Matt Adams came here with a reputation to be great on specials, and obviously he's been out for a while, but when that guy hits the practice field, and I know the roster stuff is out of your hands, but when he's ready to come out, his kind of personality, the way he plays, can he kind of rejuvenate a little bit or bring energy to coverage teams when he's out there?
Yeah, a true veteran special teamer in this league that, you guys see him on the practice field. He has energy. He has juice. He practices the right way. That personality is infectious to the rest of our team. And, I know he's been very eager to get back on the field. So it's awesome that his window has started, because just him being on the field has been great for the guys. There's a calming presence with a guy that's done it at a high level like Matt. And, I know Matt's going to be ready whenever his opportunity comes. And again, he's done it at this league at a high level, and I know he's really excited to get going.
With Seattle, they added Jay Harbaugh this year as a special teams coordinator. Do you have to go back to see what he did at Michigan, or do you, have they changed at all from your previous encounters with the Seahawks?
Yeah, so, whenever I'm preparing against an opponent, I think you always got to see where their roots come from. Obviously, where they've been most recently gives you a little bit of a tell of kind of some things that they've done. But also, Jay has been he's been in Baltimore, and he does one heck of a job. Tremendous respect for Jay, and he gets his players to play hard. You see that when he was at Michigan. You see that now with the Seahawks. He does a heck of a job, and it's gonna be a great challenge for us to go against him.
Has it been discouraging to see around the league, not just you guys, how many of these dynamic kickoffs are still resulting in just kicking it through the end zone and touchbacks after special teams coordinators around the league kind of came up with this rule?
I don't know if it's discouraging. I think, we're 4 games in. There's still, from my perspective, there's always going to be information that you can gather. And I still think it's very early in the season. We're in the first quarter. The one thing that, I'll sit back every week and study the trends around the league. So of the returns, I think from my perspective, I could speak on, I just want to gather as much information as possible to make sure we're putting our players in the best possible situation. So whether the touchback percentage is still high or whether the return rate becomes higher, I think from our perspective, we're trying to gain information, but we'll be ready to cover kicks and return kicks in both.
The commissioner said the NFL commissioner said this week that moving it to the 35 would be a game changer. Do you agree would 5 yards make that much of a difference?
Yeah, so I think if the rule does change from that perspective, it changes the trajectory of how you teach things, certainly, because now you're succeeding another 5 yards if you do try and kick a touchback. But ultimately, I think the analytics got to be able to tell you a little bit more if they do move that yard line and when that does happen. As of right now, we're preparing as it is the 30-yard line, and then we'll follow suit with that.
I was just saying from your studies, your analytics, 25 to 30 didn't seem to matter, but 30 to 35 you think would matter.
Yeah, it just keeps inching closer to the end zone, right? So you want to make sure, at what point does that actually matter? There'll be more and more studies with that if the line does change.
When Tracy fumbled, you replaced them after that. Just curious what went into that decision.
Yeah, not necessarily a lack of confidence in Tracy. He is a young and eager player that has tremendous upside in this league, has already done a lot of good things. It wasn't necessarily anything, a knock on Tracy, because he understands the importance of holding onto the ball. I wanted to give an opportunity to Amir. I thought, you guys saw Amir on punt return where he had a 22-yard punt return to the logo. So wanted to give him an opportunity to return. And, I thought that was a situation where, he wasn't playing a lot of offense at that point. So I'm like, okay, let's get him an op to touch the ball.
What is it you guys see as in Gray as a returner that makes him viable there? Because he had trouble catching the ball as a punt returner last year before you were here. I'm sure you know that. And he's, hasn't handled the ball great as a kick returner either. So what do you think? What do you see on the positive side that makes you guys keep running him out there as a returner?
Yeah, from the kickoff return standpoint, he has tracked it well. I thought he has the ability to understand kicker intentions. He does a good job of catching it forward and even fielding those liners that are a little bit harder for some returners to have it. So I think, obviously he studies his butt off, and he has tracked the ball well and he has caught it well. The running back experience from his perspective is always going to be a strong suit because he has the natural run skill that a lot of running backs have. And he does run hard, and you could tell the players want to block for him. I mean, he has one of those personalities that is, there's a very business-like approach to every opportunity he gets, and I think the players' respect of how important it is for him to be able to have success on that unit resonates with the whole unit. So, I think Gray has the ability to do it.
You mentioned Jackson coming in here. Jackson, who you just brought in, K. Jackson, right? Coming in here as a kicker in the summer, he obviously returned kicks under the new rules. Maybe different than a guy who's had experience in the league, but you haven't been able to see him with the dynamic kickoff. Does that help with your evaluation of him to come in and when he has his workout here to know what you're going to get from him right off the bat rather than having to play around and see, okay, can he do this with this?
Yeah, so he is a younger player in general,
right.
And I do think he has tremendous upside. He has shown he does have some return stuff, 2 years ago, and obviously in the preseason, seeing kind of what he did with this new kickoff return rule. I'm excited to work with him because I think he does have a skill set to do it. The one thing I do see off of the tape, he does have hole conviction, meaning once he sees it, he's going to hit it, and he's going to hit it 1,000,000 miles per hour. And he had an explosive return in the preseason, so I want to obviously keep working with him and see what he can do.